Hey everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to talk about a topic that often brings equal amount of curiosity and fear, how we use AI in research and how to do it without losing the human heart of what makes research actually meaningful. So first of all, a quick introduction. I'm Amirkhanyan, and I'm working as a head of the gaming division at Duamentes. And my background is somewhere between UX research, cognitive science, data, and game development, and which is probably why I spend a lot of time thinking about how people play, why they play, and how we can understand them better. So today I want to talk about something that still feels a little scary for many teams. These are synthetic respondents, or in simple terms, AI-driven player simulations. And more importantly, I want to talk about how to use them without losing the human essence that makes good research actually good, because synthetic doesn't mean soulless and AI doesn't mean replace the player. And in preparation of the presentation, my cat was helping me, so I decided to include her here as well. Well, let's get started. First of all, what we definitely all of us know already that, well, we're talking about this specific theme because the industry has changed dramatically. Budgets are tighter, deadlines are shorter, teams are smaller, and expectations from the developers are higher than ever. Studios are trying to find the balance between speed and quality, and AI has entered this conversation whether we are ready or not. So the real question becomes, how do we adopt AI thoughtfully, responsibly, and without losing the humanity that good research depends on? If we're honest, traditional research is kind of a little bit struggling to keep up with production realities. Well, recruitment of participants, it takes time. Interviews, play tests, usability tests, everything. You need some time. You need to find players. You need to talk with them. You need to analyze the results. You need to provide and, well, translate the results into actions. And this simply, you need a lot of resources, especially if you're like a game developer team. And many teams simply don't have that resources anymore. However, the need for insight hasn't gone away, and if anything, teams need more insight earlier and with more clarity. And this gap between the speed we need and the resources we have is where synthetic respondents become truly useful. Well, of course, AI is no longer a novelty. It's becoming infrastructure. We already use it for like localization, for prototypes, for content generation, analytics, and so on, like a lot of fields. And its role is to, I believe, like its role is to help us move faster through the stages that don't require emotional interpretation, lived experience, or empathy. Or you can argue with me, and I'll be happy to discuss this a little bit later. And what I want to say is that I guess we're gonna start here from the basics, because this is where most misunderstanding really begin. A synthetic respondent is not a chatbot. It's not a fake player, and it's definitely not a hallucinating LLM, which is improvising some answers. A synthetic respondent is a data-driven cognitive model trained to represent a very specific type of players and the way that segment tends to reason. These models are built from real behavior and motivational data. So, for example, like we at Duamentes, we collected like a lot of data, like more than 9 years of it across market, genres, and player cohorts. And for example, this is how we created a synthetic respondent. It's that, for example, you want to know more information and dive into like a world of 35-year-old mid-core strategies to buy value packs on day 7 and expect steady progression pacing. And you're just typing in, asking the questions you want to ask to these kind of typical players, and you get answers. Or as an example, you can, well, like ask to create a 45-year-old mobile auto bottler fan, someone who's playing like during some short breaks, values low pressure gameplay, and is highly sensitive to UI. And what's crucial to mention that these are not invented personas. they come from real clusters of real players, and the model learns to reason the way that group reasons. And because no model is perfect, we need to definitely take into account and remember that, of course, it can't be right now like 100% well correct. And yeah, it's kind of really also important to mention what synthetic respondents can't do. Well, they can't feel emotions. They cannot experience frustration, joy, confusion, surprise. They cannot represent the human, well, they cannot represent the personalities, the culture, the trauma, humor, nostalgia. And so they are definitely not a replacement for real players. They are usually they're early stage companions that help us ask better questions before we involve humans. And in terms of smaller studios, well, at least some kind of information which you could see that, well, it could be trustable is better than absolutely nothing. And let me walk you through how we actually use synthetic respondents and Duamentes. So we don't throw random questions at them. The process is structured, transparent, and always grounded in research principles. So we define the problem. So we're just describing like what our product is, what's our game, what we want to know, what are the issues, the background, etc. Then comes the audience segmentation, and we're describing the audience, all the possible information that we have. For example, I want to know better the specific cohort of hardcore players of Souls-like games, which enjoy like Elden Ring and dislike other Souls-likes, as an example. Then it comes to about the methodology. Like truth be told, we'd be happy to. We're trying and we're working on adding more different methodologies, but currently only what we are using is focus groups, and it's that something we're using is available. Afterwards, there are hypotheses that well could be created first of all, like from the problems and from the background and questions at the very beginning they're asking. And of course, they're like, as the whole process is AI guided, the hypotheses are also created by AI and can be removed, deleted, changed, etc. After respondents are actually created, and when they're created, you could see like the trust level, if actually there's enough information and you can actually trust the answers that you get from the respondents. After, well, when it comes to the, well, questions formulation is just about simple questions which we usually tend to ask during playtests, interviews. Well, nothing new here. Then it's just analysis and outcome and insights. Like it's actually like the answers to the questions that we had like in the very beginning, and the answer to the problem and the information that we were trying to find. And what I want to mention is that transparency is one of the most important ethical pillars in AI-driven research when it comes to whether we're using ChatGPT or something else. We should mention that we are using an AI. And here we can understand that, yeah, some participants, some respondents, synthetic respondents might not be accurate enough. And that's why we are always disclose these kind of what the trust level, how we call it. So the higher the trust level, the better and the more, well, trustable the answers are actually. And which is crucial to remember always that when teams know exactly where the boundaries are, AI becomes a responsible tool and not just a black box. And where AI respondents are actually effective. Let me walk you through this graph really quickly because it's one of the most important parts of the framework. Well, what you see here is a classic 2x2 quadrant, but adapted specifically for AI-driven respondents. So on vertical axis show validation, and this is like how reliably synthetic respondent can reflect real player reasoning. The horizontal axis shows scalability, so how easily we can apply this reasoning across markets, assets, variations, or repeated tasks. So let's start with the top right, high validation, high scalability. So it comes to like market fit and store testing. This is where synthetic respondents are incredibly strong. There we're asking questions like how clear is this message for, and then we're like describing our target audience, or how readable is this store set? Does this make sense for the genre or for the players? How does like something compare across regions? These tasks rely on logic, clarity, and expectation alignment, and all the things that synthetic respondents handle extremely well. Then it comes to the like a sweet spot, high validation and low scalability. Here the reason is solid, but of course every project is unique. It works really great with like early concepts and first time user experience when you're like or onboarding and like when you're asking questions like does the player understand on this X level what's happening, or are we setting the right expectations, and then you're just writing what you are trying to set, what's happening, and what expectations should be. uh, these are again logic heavy tasks, so AI can validate them quite well. But you can't scale this across many contexts because each concept is different. It's high quality insight, however, just not highly repeatable. On the bottom right, we have low validation and high scalability. Here, AI can help with structural logic, like is the pricing readable? Does this offer look coherent? Or does this something match to genre norms? But again, monetization is emotional actually, and it triggers fairness, frustration, and this is the things that AI cannot feel. So the scalability is actually high, but the emotional validity is quite low. So here it's quite hard to use to rely only on synthetic responders. We definitely need some more and additional checks and tests with actual players. On the bottom left, low validation, low scalability. This is the no-go zone for AI-only research because here comes to, well, some questions about the culture, humor, nostalgia, community vibes, emotional resonance. These are deeply human, personal, contextual reactions, and no model can replace real people here. Uh, Synthetic respondents can offer structure, but they cannot tell you how something feels. So, if the question is logical, AI can help. If the question is emotional, so in this case, we definitely need players, we need them to show the content, something, the game, the concept, etc., and ask the specific question and observe their reaction. And yeah, but of course, there are some tasks that AI simply cannot help us at all. Whenever we touch emotion, identity, culture, personal experience, real players here are absolutely irreplaceable. So in the previous slide, at least there were some chances to, well, to gain some insight, some information, which can be quite, well, trustable. But when we are talking about like some cultural nuances, about touch, like about emotions, etc., this is the thing that it's better not to go with synthetic respondents. There is no model in the world that can give you that answer if we're talking about if I don't know, like if something feels fair or frustrating or satisfying or whatever it might be. So you definitely need humans here. And at the center of all of this is empathy. Empathy is not a buzzword, it's the core skill of understanding of how people think, feel, interpret the world. And empathy is something only humans bring to research. AI can tell you what's unclear, but only a player can tell you what hurts, what's frustrating. And if it's frustrating, like, is it frustrating that the player is going to leave the game, or it's frustrating but a player can actually handle the issue? And this is why we use a hybrid model. AI handles exploration, fast hypothesis check, quick comparison, rapid patterns check. However, however, humans handle meaning, interpreting emotions, storytelling, nuance, priorities. This model gives teams the best of both worlds: speed from AI and depth from human insight. Um, and I want to say that ethics is not a formality, it's a foundation. It's actually the reason why, when we're talking about AI, it's kind of, well, might be a little bit frustrating, or we can even like fear a little bit of it, because it's a usually it's a black box. And sometimes you might see some content on the internet and you can say definitely that, okay, this is AI written thing, and of course nobody mentioned that actually it's AI written, or it's actually written, but well, in this case you're like, okay, everything is AI and it's not interesting. So yeah, definitely, but we need to take into account that if we're talking about research, and so we as a researchers should stay ethical, so the trust level to our industry, to, well, our job will still remain as high as possible. So using AI in research means that we must be very clear about it, where it helps, where it misleads, where it must be stopped, and who has the responsibility. Uh, Ethical research protects players first and teams second. If we treat synthetic data as truth, we're definitely going to fail. We will make strong wrong decisions, misread emotions, and misjudge expectations. And we risk building systems that harm players because they're optimized around synthetic behavior and not actually human experience. Overtrust is the biggest possible risk here, but not the technology itself. And before I go into the examples here, I want to mention also something important, that unfortunately I can't share the names of the studios using this approach right now, partly because of the confidentiality and partly because we're still actively developing this tool ourselves. We're learning, experimenting, and improving it with every new project, but still I can share the kinds of problems it's already helping teams to solve. So first, one of the cases is fast checks for R&D themes and some R&D concepts. So it's quite easy. This is where AI actually shines. We can very quickly test the clarity of a mechanic or a feature, or to see like if an idea actually, well, it's something worth it, and the team should, well, work much more with this concept, because it's actually, well, it aligns with expectations of this specific player cohort. And in this case, synthetic respondents, they just cut down weeks of uncertainty, and this helps a lot. Also, using for creative, like different ads testing, especially for early ad concepts. Synthetic respondents can help us see how different demographic segments interpret the message, if actually it could be seen, and this serves marketing teams to like refine positioning before spending money on traffic tests. And again, I just mentioning here that we're not using AI only here. There's always should be some actual players. Another example is about, well, understanding the audience, especially when it comes to some new type of players or cohorts that you've never worked before. And here AI is really powerful tool because it helps to, well, to map the motivation of players. It helps us understand which motivation concept is triggering. Like, is it mastery? Is it competition, expression, social play? And whether those particular motivations actually, well, crucial for those cohorts of players. And overall, when you need some information about some specific players or a game, it's more about like behavior, like who are our players, what they do, how they play some X games. AI helps us surface the logic, the patterns, inconsistencies, contradictions. However, again, real players fill in the emotional layer that AI cannot provide. And when you combine those two parts, you get incredibly targeted, impactful improvements. For studios, synthetic respondents bring very real advantages like faster decision, fewer blind spots, and reduced guesswork and the ability to explore ideas early without, well, burning player goodwill. And when I'm talking about like faster decision, it's like literally just several hours. Of course, it's not about replacing research, as I mentioned before. It's about enabling research in situations where research simply wasn't possible before because of the resources. But some things should never, ever, I guess, be automated. And this is like just my point of view. And if you disagree, please let me know. I'm open to discuss. So trust, community, emotions, player voice, human stories, like the soul of the experience. These elements are where the magic happens, and no AI can replicate them. It's a unique feature of humankind. And I would say that the future of research is not a AI versus people, humans. The future is augmented empathy. Then you use AI to remove the tedious parts of, so researchers can spend more time interpreting people, not just like scheduling Zoom calls or, well, finding some information that already has been found, and if it's possible to find answers to the logical questions. So why not? And yeah, AI gives us speed and humans gives us meaning, and both together they create a research process that is more ethical and more insightful than either alone. If there's one thing to remember from my speech, I guess that synthetic doesn't mean soulless. It means structured, scalable, and guided by human judgment. AI has value, but humans give the direction. AI can accelerate, but empathy is the thing that must lead. So ethics must be visible, and limitations, of course, they must be respected. And we, as researchers, we should clearly tell our stakeholders, our clients, and the teams that, hey, this part it was used by AI, whether it's synthetic respondent or something else, because this is the thing that where we are responsible and we can build trust between us as researchers and other teams that we're working with. So actually, that's all for today. Thank you so much. Thank you for your attention. Please, I'm absolutely open to discuss all the type of topics about AI research, synthetic respondents, and game UX research. So please, don't hesitate to reach out to me, whether it's on email or just on LinkedIn. Please drop me a message, and yeah, let's see each other at QA session. So thank you for being with me for today, and have a wonderful day. See you all.